Awesome. We got ourselves a game on Twin Peaks. Now, Happy Death still hasn't disconnected, which is unusual, to say the least. Oh no! Oh no! All the players are out, so they move before they hit ready. But, wow. Cool. Hello, welcome. This is the Airmech Carry Me #5 tournament. And so, where we match decent players with less decent players, and we try and see what happens, and hopefully we just play a lot of games, and it's all cool, man. And it's about as fair as we can make the brackets for the most part. So we try to sandbag Happy Death as often as we can, and yet Happy Death just keeps coming back and murdering folks, because that's what he does. Oh, man. Red team already going for this bottom outpost. Happy Death is going to be trying to carry Elf, but Elf is an Osprey, so that means all he has to do is hold right click, and he's actually become a pretty good player. Meanwhile, on the other side, we've got Stryder in the Osprey trying to carry Sporefreak, or maybe Sporefreak's carrying Stryder. Hard to say. They're actually about on par. Both pretty good players. Now, naturally, no one in the world is quite as good as Happy Death, but, you know, a boy can dream. Boy can dream. So we'll see if the combined forces of Sporefreak and Stryder will be able to overcome Happy Death's unstoppable, so far, gauntlet of firepower. So Happy Death boosters out of there. Red team successfully captures the bottom post. Green team successfully captures the bottom post because ain't nobody goes top on Twin Peaks. And now the lines are drawn. Let us see how they progress. It looks like mostly mix of Longhorn and Gemini, Good to throw a few Gemini in there in general, just because if someone pushes with zippers or jokers or something along those lines, lighter units that are very fast, Gemini are better able to deal with those. Longhorn end up getting quickly overwhelmed and distracted, but at the same time, Gemini are noticeably weaker versus other tanks. So we see more long-range weapons coming into play. Green has a socketed Archie, whereas Red is going to plant down a couple of Buckies. Buckies with the missiles are going to be a really good long-range support unit that's, generally speaking, better than artillery, does a lot more DPS, but it's also a lot easier to counter. A single Aegis put down would basically render all those missiles useless. In addition, Buckies themselves tend to be fairly fragile, so without a copious amount of anti-air here, you're going to find that Buckies are pretty easy to snipe. Red team afraid of the push, afraid that maybe Green has too much here, which honestly they do. Green has significantly more stuff here, and so long as Red has that local outpost neutral, Green really could just kind of push in and knock all this out. So dropping a couple heavy mines for the defense, Rats should be able to keep those tanks topped off, and then we'll see the artillery managing that. So as far as what is Red doing, what is Green doing, a little bit of skirmishing over these other outposts, just trying to plant things behind, try and distract the other team. Nothing particularly tangible getting done. Couple of Jackals getting dropped on the fort. We might see some more units dropped around on the close outposts as well. Looks like Green is going to go ahead and push, but they're pushing a little bit too late now that Red has their full attention. And has also been able to continue building units. That numerical advantage is significantly dwindled now. They really should have done this about 45 seconds ago if they're going to make the most of it. Now Green team is a little bit farther off the post. Red team does drop one stray Jackal just for that damage. That does prevent Green from microing this, and that will give Red the edge in this mid-fight confrontation, just making sure that there's a player gone, especially if that player is the Osprey. They're going to have a much worse time. Now, once again, we see that the Green team outpost completely dry, not able to do any healing or any energy rejuvenation on that outpost. Really need a generator in place. Red team, we know, likes to bring those generators, so probably going to see that artillery get pulled off and replaced with a generator sometime soon. But Red's got a much better loadout for attrition. Green only has one artillery, a couple of mines, handful of Gemini and Longhorn, and a couple of turrets, whereas Red, really with the longer range support units, the Buckies are really going to make that and start to swing that in favor. Sporefreak getting impatient, seeing if he can't use some jumpers to try and neutralize that close outpost, but Unfortunately, that does get responded to, so he's going to be unable to really make much of it. Now, he might try again and just tag the fort a little bit, get a little bit of damage in, knock out some moneymakers, knock out some whoppers. But when he's doing this, yeah, harassment's good, but he's going to be completely ignoring any kind of mid-fight micro action that can be going on. Now, fortunately, Stryder has stabilized. He's not actively losing right now, so sporefreak is kind of free to go around and do what he wants, but you find that he's upkeep capped. So sporefreak unable to really build, well, anything. They can't do anything. So the correct course of action, now that we've got a stalemate on the bottom, what both teams should be looking at is going top. Because you can micromanage all day, but there should be at least one player from each team that's working on neutralizing this top outpost, because whoever pushes first in this particular scenario where you've got equal numbers, the defender's going to win. And honestly, Stryder's not in a position to push into happydeath and elf. And falling back wouldn't really be a great idea. So you see red team selling off some upkeep and investing in more buckies. That makes tanks better up close, but buckies, tell you what, that long-range suppression is pretty freaking impressive. Just dumping in the damage, and Stryder's not going to have enough HP and not going to have enough energy to keep all these units topped off for long. So sporefreak needs to put most of his attention in the top, but now that happydeath and elf are both going top, because the buckies are doing this themselves, this is a maintenance-free lifestyle for red, and Stryder's doing his absolute best just to sustain himself. Now sporefreak does get a quick kill on the Osprey, and trying his best to kill any other red units that are around, but sporefreak, now that it's 2-1 on the top, sporefreak is probably going to get outmaneuvered here. Really needs to get some infantry into that post, but you've still got the two neutral T99s that are putting damage in as well, and elf and happydeath are both going to be here. Stryder doing nothing but sustaining, just healing his units and trying to survive against the buckies. Now that he knows that there are no red players here, and there haven't been any red players here for 2 minutes, really this is the point where maybe Stryder should consider leapfrogging up, approaching one side, dropping behind. A single 2 tanks zone behind are going to neutralize that outpost, and you can easily start sniping buckies from the rear. But that's an opportunity that's not really being exploited. I think we get too much into that mid-fight mentality where I have to just build a bigger line, I have to get more repair units, I have to get more tanks, when that's really not the way that you win that engagement. So elf and happydeath have definitely gotten the upper hand up on the north outpost now, with sporefreak being just 2v1ing it. Now that they've got that pretty much on lockdown, they're going to put their attention back down here, and Stryder's going to find himself outmaneuvered down here as well, and he's going to lose any opportunity that he had before of trying to take that outpost now that the Osprey's here. Sporefreak going to try to do just that, going to try and drop behind, neutralize this outpost, seeing as all of red's units are on the front, is going to very quickly get the neutralize. Happydeath is going to try and drop some creeps to get that back under control. One of them, nope, none of them got picked off. Sporefreak is going to drop those up behind as well, try and neutralize the next outpost. Just trying to give Stryder some time, give Stryder some breathing room. And if Stryder were a little bit more aggressive with his units and a little bit more insistent with his positioning, like right now, the only green unit that is shooting is this one Gemini, and it's hitting a Buster. And that Buster is being healed. So, green team is getting virtually nothing done with this push. This mid-fight is entirely favoring red. You could push in the front, but you're going to melt to the heavy mines, and then you've got tanks behind. What you need to do is start using your carrying capacity as Osprey, reposition your tanks here, because look, there's no red players here, man. They're not here. Do whatever you want. So you want to pick up all these tanks and anti-air, reposition them to right around there, or drop a couple on the fort and start sniping whoppers, but you've got a wide open playing field all over there that's not pushing into the strength. happydeath and elf, meanwhile, still 2v1ing sporefreak on the top of the map, and going to be able to make that happen no problem, because sporefreak once again can't build any units. All of green team's upkeep is on the top, so both green players are hovering around 27,000 credits. You know, that's about 5 Longhorn in the bank that they could be constructing but aren't. Striker finally gets picked off, curses the damn buckies. Buckies OP, don't you know? And then as soon as the Osprey's gone, the buckies combined with the Striker sword, everything falls apart. Red counter pushes, and that is a handy advantage. Yeah, that I'm gonna say that was There was not 2v2 up on the top. It was 2v1 pretty much that whole match. Stryder was dedicating all of his resources on maintaining the line and really not able to exploit the openings that Red was giving, and was just trying to sustain against the Buckies, but without doing any damage with his own units. Ended up getting completely overwhelmed. I'm going to say that is not the fault of Buckies. Buckies do their job perfectly well. They force the engagement that you have two choices. You can push or you can reposition, and you did neither. But Buckies really don't stand up in close combat. So in this particular case, I'm going to say that's a handy win. I think Happy Death could have been bested. But ultimately, this green team in all three of these games has been fairly reluctant to make use of their units in a aggressive, mobile way. Whereas Happy Death and Elf have been moving them all over the place and making sure to stay active on the map and keep things going. The green team, they were upkeep capped, now they're down to 0, so they are starting to spend through some of that bank, massing up as many flackers as possible, because that makes almost no sense whatsoever. But they are going to go ahead and surrender, say GG, and we have a 3-0. Happy Death and Elf are going to advance to the finals. GG, well played.